All right. Good morning. Good morning. Come on in. Happy Saturday. Boy, I don't know about y'all, but that was a long week. That was a really long week. But it is coming to an end. Hope it's been as productive for y'all as it has been for me. Um, but nonetheless, we are here today. So happy Saturday. And let's talk about the topic of debt. I know it's not the most um I don't know, sunshiny of topics, the most exciting of topics. But I hope that what I have to share with y'all this morning may change your mind on that a little bit. So let's let's wait a couple of minutes, let some folks trickle on in this morning. Grab a cup of coffee. I've got mine right here, and we'll get started here in a little bit. I have a lot to share with y'all this morning. Some stuff uh, pertaining to, well, I listed out the subjects on the Facebook post. But yeah, some stuff is going to be pertaining to good debt, some stuff is going to be pertaining to bad debt. I'll explain the differences between those in case you don't know. And I'll explain, how we can utilize good debt to reach our goals, to garner um, more freedom in our lives, and then how to minimize bad debt and how to eliminate it completely. But then also, you know, what it looks like to utilize good debt. I'll give some examples, and then I'll show you some tools, some tips and tricks, and some resources. So if that sounds like something that could be of benefit, um, jump on in and let's get started. So let me just do this real quick so it's not chiming in my ear the whole time, and so it's not distracting everyone else. All right, cool. So good morning. Welcome to the show. I haven't really come up with a name yet. I've just been I'm a big fan of Friends, the TV show Friends. So if you if you haven't noticed the titles for these, it's kind of in that same vein. But if you come up with a good name, feel like throwing one out there, let me know. Always always here to open to hearing good ideas like that. So all right, let's get started. Um all right. So what to do first? All right, so let's talk about the difference between good debt and bad debt. So obviously, when we're when we're going through and we're considering a financial purchase, right? We'll start there. Um Sometimes, it may benefit us, or sometimes we think that it's a benefit to finance something. And sometimes it is, sometimes it isn't. It just depends on the nature of the financing. Um, and so when if you can't pay for cash for something, if you can't pay for something with the amount that's in your bank account, then you have to finance it. And so that's basically saying, okay, I'm going to borrow money from another individual or company or fund, um, that I'm going to pay back in addition to a little bit extra or a lot extra in some cases, over a certain amount of time. And those terms and conditions are what we agree upon. And that can be either through an installment loan, um, or it could be from a line of credit. So that line of credit could be credit cards. It could be an agreed line of credit from, again, in installment loans. Those are generally the two types of financing. And so when we're looking at those in nature, um, they can be either good or bad depending on their purpose, but also depending on the condition, the terms and conditions that we agree upon. So a good example, um, let me pull up the slides again. I feel like that was I've seen a couple of solutions where I could have like a little um like I have a iPad and I could draw it out and I may do that one day, but for right now, I'm just gonna keep going with the slides. That seems to be a good way of going about things. So let's see. Um, New slide, and I'm gonna bring this up here. So we'll go good. All right, cool. And you'll notice right off the bat, I'm not wanting to. Eventually, I may get this polished up and everything, but for right now, my main goal is to get y'all this knowledge. My main goal is to help y'all through, whatever you're going through or whatever may be coming up, or, you know, getting you prepared for unforeseen events, anything like that. Whatever's coming up, that's where I want to help you out. So it's not going to be flashy. A lot of times I'm just kind of giving you this information, not necessarily on a whim, but just, as it comes up, as, we may be either as it may be asked to me, or as it may come up in everyday life. So good debt. All right. So this could be good debt. Um Actually, let's start off with bad debt because it's the most common, but most people don't think of it as bad debt. So this right here, biggest one, credit card, credit card debt. Okay, your interest rate by default is going to be anywhere from 10% up to 29% plus. I mean, about the highest that I've seen is been 29%. That right there is in nature is bad debt, but I'm going to show you how it can be utilized as good debt. Another bad debt could be payday loan, um, or like a title loan, something like that. Something where you're having to put money against something that you already own, just to just to get some kind of liquid cash. Um, None of those, I mean, unless you are very, very disciplined, which again, by nature tells me that you're not. And again, I'm not here to judge. I'm not here to, point fingers or anything. I'm just here to help you see the difference. If you're disciplined in the rest of your finances and you're not stretching yourself so thin, then 9 times out of 10 you're not going to need something along those lines. You're going to have your credit where it needs to be, to the point where if you need a line of credit or if you need an installment loan, you can go to someone honestly more reputable, like a credit union or like your bank, or something like that, or even borrowing from yourself, something like a 401k or something like that. So those are a couple of good types of bad debt. A couple of types of good debt may be, um, again, borrowing against a 401k. So when you do this, and again, I'll mention this right off the bat, I'm not a financial advisor. I'm teaching you what has been taught to me by others, but this is not considered financial advice. I'm just giving this out for educational purposes. So borrowing against a 401k, not only does it does charge interest, but that interest, um, from what I've seen, goes back to your original principal in addition to your original principal. So let's say you borrow $10,000 and it's, you know, 10% um, principal 10% interest. I know it's about, I guess, about that 10% interest. That would be what, $1,000. So you're at the end of it, you're gonna have if you pay yourself back on time and it generates $1,000, you're gonna have all of that principal plus $1,000 back in your account, and that's gonna be in back in your 401k. Good debt also could be like, so let's talk about a home for a second. So a house, a mortgage could be is by nature, and I don't want to trigger anybody here. I don't want to like start a debate or anything, but by nature, a mortgage is considered bad debt because, or maybe not bad debt, but um, non-productive debt. We'll call it that way because bad debt to some people mean something different, and bad debt to other people mean what I'm trying to illustrate here. So a mortgage by default is paying for something that takes more money than it produces. I'll put it that way. Okay. So when you have a mortgage, I'll put the here in the middle, mortgage. If you are just utilizing it as a roof over your head, then it's by default taking more money out of your pocket than it's putting in. But if you do that and you put an Airbnb against it, now you're moving that needle. Okay. If you're, um, utilizing it as a home office, you're moving that needle a little bit more. If you are, let's say, I'm trying to think, if you have land that you're utilizing for, some other type of business, maybe it's, I don't know, a retreat for men, or you're utilizing the land for, um, I don't know, something else that you could, a circus. I don't know. um, then that's starting to move the needle. In addition, um, well, let me go back over here because talking about good debt again, solar, really big one. Solar, if you take out a loan against solar, or if you finance a solar system, it is by nature an asset, which means even if you have to finance it, even if you are indebted to the solar company, eventually it's going to break even. And there's a ton of schools of thought on this. Everybody's got an opinion. I'm not here to debate all of those different opinions, but I'm here to say solar by nature is producing more, is producing energy, which then can be sold again at different rates, and how you preserve it and all that kind of stuff. Not here to debate all that, but what I'm saying is solar by nature is an asset, and in turn is good debt. So depending on how the numbers work out, it's going to, in some way, form, or fashion, is going to break even at some point. Now, whether, where you want that to be or your preferences and everything, that's all up to you. But solar is by nature a good debt. And I can show you, you know, that's one of the offerings that I do on the side, or not on the side, but through Dream Life Innovations. Um, just a little plug there, but yes, by nature. So good debt, borrowing against 401k, solar. Um, what else? Put, help me out here if you're on and watching. Take a look and let me know in the comments. I don't know that I ever. Let me see if I ever put this out that we are. Yep, going live. Okay, cool. Da, 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 da. Okay. So if we are still looking at good debt, um, a car, technically a car is also kind of in that middle ground, an auto loan. If you are running DoorDash and you're offsetting the monthly cost of that car, it could be considered good debt. If you are just utilizing it to go, gallivanting around and cruising or whatever, and you're just using it to consume, that would be considered bad debt or non-productive debt. DoorDash, Uber, Lyft, anything like that, where you're bringing something in that is on paper, maybe not directly applied towards the loan, but although I would recommend that you do, um, but it on paper, as far as your whole ins and outs, your income expenses go, that seesaw that we talked about. If you are bringing something in by utilizing that car, it is essentially offsetting the price at which you paid for that vehicle, in addition to the gas and maintenance and insurance and everything else. Okay. Um, so yeah, so that's good debt and bad debt. I'm sure there's a lot more examples out there, but y'all get the idea. So how do we diminish um the bad debt? Sorry, trying to talk at the same time. How do we diminish the bad debt while utilizing the good debt? That's ultimately what we're here to talk about today, right? So bad debt, there's a number of schools of thoughts. One of the big ones, and you may have heard it from like Dave Ramsey or some of the other like financial planner gurus out there, but the snowball effect. Okay. Snowball effect is, a popular one. And we actually have a tool as part of our UCES membership, um, that I can give you more information on. This is, oh, sorry, let me change my screen a little bit and do the entire screen. This one. Cool. So this is the if y'all have ever heard me talking about the membership that we provide, this is kind of an inside look into everything that's included. So with this, you get all this other kind of stuff, and we'll talk about that later. But what I specifically want to talk about is this debt payoff tool. And there's, all kinds of nuggets and everything that it provides. But the cool part is it gives you a real snapshot of whatever your current debt is. Now, this is not for collections or charged off accounts, anything like that, any kind of delinquent student loans or anything like that, because that it's now changed statuses, and uh, that's going in a different direction and in a different conversation for a different day that we'll talk about at the end when that is coming up. But if you have current debt, say you have a mortgage, say you have an auto loan, say you have current student loans, and all of that is outstanding, or not outstanding, but say it's current, but you have it out in your name, you can apply that. You can use this tool. So, like I used um, this for example, exemplary purposes. So I was looking at how this could be applied for a mortgage, and you can also let's do um, um, Meagle overlay. And let's say you have a current balance of, let's say 23,000 for easy math. 23,000, and let's say it's a 4.6% interest, and your monthly is 390. I don't know, something like that. So we can add this in, and let's say we also have student loans. Any May, and your current balance is another. We'll just go crazy. 81,000. And so your monthly is probably going to be, if your interest rates are, again, let's say 6.8% across the board, and normally they're going to be fluctuating. It's not all going to be 6.8, but I'm just using this for example purposes so I can show y'all what this looks like. Monthly payment, uh, I don't know, this may be on the high end, but let's just say 735 a month, like that. So if we're doing all of that, and now we can come in here and we can look at your real debt report, what if everything is outstanding, as well as a payoff plan. And we can see, okay, what your minimum, so on, I forgot to add credit cards. I should have probably added credit cards again. But minimum monthly payment, if you look at your credit card statement, it'll tell you how long, and I think they had to do this some years back by law, but it'll tell you how long, if you just make the minimum payment, how long it's going to take you to pay off that debt and how much in interest you're additionally going to pay. In addition, you can also utilize this with the debt payoff plan. So that's that real debt report. That's what the interest is. So you can see 420,000. That's the amount of a really good house. That is crazy. If you have a mortgage, I mean, that's wild. The total interest, if you're just paying the minimum against all of these interest rates at 4.6, 6.8, and 4.75%, your total interest is going to be about 25% in total, 125,000. And it's going to take you 15 years to pay off if you're diligent. If nothing else comes up, if you stay on track and you're just making the payments, you're going to have all of this paid off. So you're going to have your student loans paid off, which means essentially a clear degree, if we're speaking in auto terms or in mortgage terms, a clear degree, a clear title for a car, and a clear deed for your house by 2039, March of 2039. So 15 years. But if we utilize this tool and we plug it in, the total debt that you're going to pay is going to be about 18,000 short of that. You're going to pay 106,000 in interest, and you're going to pay it off about 3 years, 2 years and some odd, 2.5 years shorter than if you just paid on the basic interest, the minimum interest. Oh, that's with the accelerator. Sorry. Let's reapply that. No, go back. Oh, come on. Don't do this. Let's try that again. There we go. Okay, so it's a little bit different. It's 2 years. Okay, so I'll get to that part here in a second, but it's a little bit different. 2 years difference. 2 year, a year and 11 months. 113 versus 125, 408 versus 420. But here's the cool part. Here's what I'm getting at. So it will actually give you, just like you get with a car or a mortgage loan, it will give you a payoff plan, a schedule, if you will, a payment schedule. And so as we're going through, you can see these payments. So if you pay 390 towards your car, 735 to your student loans and 1488 towards the mortgage, you can see how long it'll pay. So it'll take, let's see, we're April 2024, 2029, so a little over 5 years for the car. But then we add that the um to the student loans, and we reinvest that here. So then that takes till 2034, the end of 2034, to pay off your student loans, and then we apply that towards the mortgage, and you can see then 2037, and it's that snowball effect. You start off with, I think it should be, yeah, so months to pay off, but then it's also looking at the interest, and it's taking all of this into consideration to apply it towards the overall debt, but in a specific manner. Okay. And it's cutting it up to where it's feasible. So let's go back and let's say, okay, if we are applying each of these, but we want to pay it down even faster, let's just say an extra $50. I think it's $50 a month. Okay. So if we do that, it knocks it down by $3,000. It knocks this down by $5,000 in interest, and it knocks this down by almost 3 years, or 2 years and some change. So it's doubling the speed at which you're paying it down. So you're paying this off in 2029, the beginning of 2029 versus the end. You're applying that, and it's coming out at 2034, same year, just earlier. And then this is 2036 instead of 2039. So you can kind of start to see how applying the extra interest, the extra payment, will do that. Will speed it up. Now let's double that to 100. You can see it's even faster. 2036. Yeah, 2036 and 2028 instead of 2029. 2033 instead of 2034. 2036 instead of 2039. Okay. So that's the power of being able to snowball this together and really seeing your progress. Because if you don't, again, if you don't have a plan, just like with your budget, if you don't have a payoff plan, then you're just spinning your wheels. You can throw stuff at, your debt, but you have no idea if it's going to interest, if it's going to principal, if it's going to a little bit of both, if it's, you have no idea. So I just wanted to share that with you as a tool. Again, it's not the end all to be all, but it is an option. So let's go back to what we were talking about before, or my screen before. Cool. All right. So that's looking at bad debt. And you can use that same thing with solar. You can use that same tool with solar or borrowing against 401k, anything like that. Any kind of debt that you have, it's just that you want to minimize and you want to pay off that bad debt first, because that's what's going to carry the high interest. That's what's going to carry that extra leverage against something that you don't necessarily want to have leveraged against. Let's see what else. Any questions? Hopefully this is providing value for you so far. How many people do we have on? Let's see. Okay, so if you're watching this on a replay, put hashtag replay. Let us know when you're watching this and where you're watching this from. So we went over what is bad debt, how to most easily pay down and minimize bad debt, what is good debt, how to leverage good debt. So we talked about that a little bit with solar. I can go into that more in depth, but really one of the big questions I get is, how much does solar cost? Am I qualified for it? Can it help me? That's really the biggest question. Why is it, everybody sees these exorbitant price tags, but they don't see the benefit behind it and what they everybody's like, "Oh, I need a car." But it's like, "Okay, but you're just depreciation and high interest and everything." But then you try to explain to them about solar and it's like, "Oh, I don't need that." Okay, well, do you like throwing away money every year? Like it's not that I'm trying to force it upon anybody, but I'm just trying to get you to see the difference between good debt and bad debt in everyday real world case scenarios. I'm not trying to twist anybody's arm. I'm just trying to show you how it can benefit you. And it can. You just have to look at the numbers and you have to lay it out. So, with specifically for solar, every person's home is different. And so, I'll start kind of showing that in real world case scenarios as we move forward, and as we're looking at different strategies. And I may even have a third party solar pro on here to speak from that specifically one day. If that would provide value to you, and if you would have an interest in that, let me know. I'll be more than happy to get somebody on here. But how to leverage that price tag to really get give you the most in return. Yeah, it may take a few years, but guess what? You're Think of it as an exponential growth of of benefit. Like you're going to get something right at the beginning, but you're going to get a little bit more in year 1. You're going to get a little bit more in year 2. You're going to get a little bit more in year 3, and all of that is going to exponentially compound and grow that benefit. Okay? So, um that's how that works. I hope that's making sense for y'all. If it's not, please let me know. I don't mind if y'all have specific questions. I don't mind letting you know, or helping work through those in a specific way. And then last but not least, I just want to kind of tie this all back in with this right here. So as we're going through, like I said, we want to have that emergency fund. We want to have our expenses covered. But then as we're going through, if one of your goals, it doesn't just have to start like, I would actually insist if one of your goals is any outstanding debt, and I would actually insist that that be your first goal, get back to where you're controlling your money and you're not just having to throw money at outstanding debt in order to get on top of it. Pay that down first and then go from there into your goals of building assets. Okay? So if you have outstanding credit cards, again, I'm not talking about the ones that are in collections or in a default status, because we can help you in other ways on getting out from under those and getting those removed. Um, Again, not guaranteeing. Um, Want to be really clear there. Put out that disclaimer, but we can help you in specific ways around those default status accounts with debt. But um, if you have outstanding current debt, then this should be the first place where you go to basically get on top of that, put that into a tool like the one that I showed you with the membership, and really focus on paying those down. And at the very least, getting a plan around those so that you know where you stand. So if you know where you stand, then you know how long it will take you to pay that off, and you know whether or not you have enough to really get on top of it so that that payoff is exponentially increasing as well, and you're paying off more and more of the principal to shrink that debt as quickly as possible. Okay. Um, but that should be your first goal is to pay off all debt, all bad or non-productive debt. And then your second goal then is if it's home ownership, if it's paying for a car, if it's remodeling, anything like that, to save up so that you're not having to take out lines of credit. Or if you are and you're wanting to leverage credit, lines of credit, you know how to responsibly do that. And you can, if you have to pay it off at once at any given time, you have the ability to do so. That's really where lines of credit can become good. That's why I was going, that's what I meant to go back to earlier. So even though it has this 29% or 15%, 18%, whatever it is, if you're not letting it revolve or if you're limiting the months that it's revolving, then you're able to limit and you're able to control the amount of interest that you're paying. At that point, it can actually become good debt and we can move this from here over here. So that 10%, even though it is 10%, it's being controlled. Okay. And that's how you can really start to leverage. And you may hear from time to time, about rewards cards and Sky Miles and this, that, and the other. And it's like, okay, well, if I'm carrying a 5,000 or 10,000 or even $20,000 credit limit and it's revolving from month to month, that's not doing anybody any good. It doesn't matter if you have 100,000 Sky Miles. You're not doing anybody any favors except for the creditor, Amex or Capital One or whoever. But if you're able to leverage that and you're able to revolve it with as minimum amount of interest as possible while still utilizing it for your projects, for your vacations, for your goals, you can turn that into a good debt, but you have to be super, super disciplined about it. And that's where this comes into play. Okay. So I hope that this has been valuable. I hope y'all have gotten something out of this. I didn't want to take up a whole lot of time. I wanted to keep this around a half hour, 45 minutes or so. But let me know. Let me know in the comments. And if it's 2 months from now and you've got questions or you want to reach out and talk about something specific, let me know. I'm more than happy to jump on a Zoom or jump on a Google Meet and talk with this and really help you to build out something specific to you. This is kind of my passion project. This is what I like doing. Um, so yeah. Uh, with that being said, um, I will go ahead and end it there. And I hope y'all have a great Saturday. Um, and I hope y'all have a great rest of the weekend. Until then, see y'all later.